Right, roast pork dinner. I've got a joint of pork, which has thankfully been scored already, a head of broccoli, 500 grams of carrots, and a kilo of potatoes. So the first thing I'm going to do is rub the pork with salt to get the crackling going. And I've got the oven set as high as it'll go, and I'm going to pop the pork in a roasting tin straight into the oven uncovered for about half an hour, and that will start the crackling off. So what we do, we rub the salt into the crackling. Get it as crisp as we possibly can, and then later on we'll cut the crackling off and put it in small pieces on top of the roast potatoes to finish it off. So that's the pork going straight into the oven now. Once the crackling's done, I shall take the pork out, cover it and turn down the heat and cook it slowly. So I've cut the carrots into batons, the potatoes into small pieces for roasting. I like small roasties. The broccoli into florets. They're all in lightly salted water. And I've got half a pack of sage and onion stuffing that I had in the cupboard, and I'm just going to mix that this boiling water. I've added a knob of butter, and then I shall roll that into balls and we'll roast that around the meat with the roasties. So the potatoes I'm going to bring to the boil and boil for 1 minute and then drain them off. I shall boil the carrots for about 15 minutes, and the broccoli I shall bring to the boil, then I shall drain it off and let it stand with the lid on, because it's very easy to overcook broccoli and ruin it so that it all falls to bits. So that's how I cook it. Bring to the boil, drain off and cover with a lid and leave it to stand, and by the time you're ready to serve it will have continued to cook in its own heat and it will be tender. So the crackling has started to crisp up now. It's not as good as I would like it, but the string sort of got in the way. But never mind, I'm going to show you a trick now which will help with the gravy when the meat's finished roasting. I'm going to put in a heaped dessert spoonful of plain flour in the tin. And just place the meat back on top of it. Now that will help with the gravy when the meat's cooked. So I'm going to cover this with foil now, pop it back in the oven at a much lower heat, round about 180, and then cook it slowly for a couple of hours until it's really tender. I've boiled the potatoes now for about a minute and drained them off, so I'm going to give the pan a shake. Just to soften the edges a bit. The meat's cooked now, it's been cooking about 2 hours. I'm going to take it out of the tin and I'm going to cut off the crackling and cut it into small pieces and sprinkle it over the roast potatoes. That should crisp it up even further. So the roast potatoes are going in the pan now, and we shall roll those in the juices and also add in the stuffing. That'll get baked as well with the roast potatoes. So the idea is to coat the potatoes on all sides with the juices in the tin. Then we shall roast them in the oven for about half an hour till they're all nice and crispy. Some lovely brown juices in this tin, so it's going to make nice roasties and nice gravy. Right, it's time to carve up the meat. The potatoes are nearly ready. It's very, very tender, this meat. It's pork shoulder and there's no real dainty way to carve it because it falls to bits. So you've just got to sort of cut chunky pieces, very, very tender. But as you can see, there's plenty of meat here for 4 people. So, the roast potatoes are done. The stuffing balls have collapsed, but it doesn't matter, they're still edible, and the crackling is coming along. Whilst I'm serving up, I shall pop that back in the oven for a minute, just the crackling, and then I shall serve up the potatoes and make the gravy in the tin. I'm just going to pour some boiling water into the roasting tin. I'm going to give it a good old stir to get all these lovely meaty bits off the roasting tin. And because we've added the flour under the meat, the gravy's thickened now. So it's a nice smooth thick gravy which we can pour over the dish, all over the dinner. Smells good. So there you go, roast pork dinner. Delicious. I just can't wait to tuck in. Those roasties look wonderful. Oh, and just one thing extra. Some lovely crackling. This is my favourite part. That piece would be nice. Wonderful.